All right, good morning, everybody. Running a little behind this morning. Had some technical difficulties with a router. We're going to talk about this article uh, from TechCrunch. It looks like Elon has announced that Grok is going to go open source this week. So we're going to take a look at this article and talk about kind of what it means for it to go open source. And yeah, should be a good conversation. So hope you got a good hot cup of coffee and we're ready to rock and roll. Be back right after the intro. I just let that whole, I'm so sorry, guys. I set my headphones down and walked off to go get some coffee. I did not even realize that I just let that whole intro run without the audio. Sorry. It was still faded down from when I faded it to do the transition to this camera on Friday, and I left the fader bar down. Oh well. So got a little flustered this morning, about to get the show started, and all of a sudden, I'm running behind because I had an internet issue and had to reboot the router. Live is hard mode, shit happens. All right, good morning. So this morning we're going to talk about this article from TechCrunch. We're going to read the article and discuss what it kind of means for us. And but first I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. I saw some articles while I was reading the news this morning. I read about 40 or 50 articles this morning on various topics, politics, entertainment stuff. The Oscars were this weekend. Apparently John Cena was put through a humiliation ritual, and Commie Kimmel got out there and made fun of Donald Trump, of course. There was some videos circulating of a gang of black teenagers brutally beating a poor young white girl to death, 15-year-olds. There's some conflicting reporting on that as to whether the girl's in critical condition or actually has already passed away from the attack. And people on X are talking about apparently she's being charged with aggravated assault when obviously it should be attempted murder. Pittsburgh is shutting down police services. You won't get an answer from the police for anything short of an actual, for anything short of a real emergency. And their description of what a real emergency is really limited. And they've decided, you know what, we're just not going to have any cops at all between 3 and 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, Jesus. And I'm reading through all these articles and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Nobody needs to start their whole week, start their Monday morning off with all this bullshit. Right? Let me tell you something, if you don't already know this, I'd be surprised. I'm sure you've heard the expression, if it bleeds, it leads. Bad news is real easy to find. If you wanna have a diet of strictly bad news, it's real easy to find. Good news is a little bit harder to find. I'm gonna make you guys this promise going forward. While I will cover the violence, I'll cover the terror threats, I'll cover the geopolitical nightmares, we'll still do the global threat analysis type of news investigation and examination and commentary and opinion. We're still going to do all that. But we're going to do it Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right? You know, Friday's already off limits for the vast majority of anything not related to firearms. Firearms Friday is an old standby. It's a staple, and it's one of our most popular segments, and it's near and dear to my heart. We're going to keep doing Firearms Friday. That's a thing. Going forward, I am going to do my best on Monday mornings from now on to pick an article that is either explicit, just like over the top good news to the greatest extent possible for good news articles, or something fun and fluffy and lighthearted and entertaining, or something like this. This isn't even necessarily good news. It is good news, but it can be interesting without necessarily, you know, it might not be good news that you need to celebrate, but something interesting like a news article about okay, for example, I read one this morning about a history museum that is making some 13,000 3D scan models of their various animal species specimens available for viewing online, and I almost covered that one this morning and that's good news too, right? But you know, we'll cover some tech, we'll cover some fun, maybe we'll do some cryptozoology stuff, you know, some Bigfoot stories, stuff, silly stuff like that. But I'm gonna try going forward for you guys to do just not the awful, horrible, nasty, gross news on Monday, right? We start our week off, cup of coffee, something light, something good, and try to kind of elevate our consumption, our news consumption diet. So, that said, okay, before I pull up the article, last week on Thursday, we were talking about Grok, and Sergeant Major asks, sports? I doubt it. I tell you what, old man, I've got a couple of the boys can do sports commentary. I'll talk to a few of them, and maybe I'll start having them do a guest spot or something of the sort on Monday mornings occasionally. I mean, it ain't exactly football season right now, so maybe Cade will cover football when the weather cools back off after we get a little bit more warm love in our lives. But anyway, so last week Thursday I covered Grok having the new feature rollout where it should be able to take long, complex legal documents and summarize them for easy consumption. So those will be, you know, that if that tool ends up working well, that'll be incredibly useful for guys like me that do political commentary and analysis. I'm still somewhat skeptical of the safety of using it for professional Juris Doctorates, but for a news commentator who just needs the highlights, and I don't really need the fine print to have a conversation about the proposed bill or this lawsuit or that prosecution, etc. It can be very useful. Now, Elon Musk to open source AI chatbot Grok this week. Elon Musk's AI startup XAI will open source Grok, its chatbot rivaling ChatGPT this week. The entrepreneur said days after suing OpenAI and complaining that the Microsoft-backed startup had deviated from its open source roots. So, OpenAI is another AI, obviously. And early on, Musk committed, I want to say it was like $50 million to the OpenAI program. Now, when he did that, right, this lawsuit that he's filed against OpenAI, basically, when he committed the $50 million, OpenAI had promised to be a nonprofit business, a nonprofit organization whose mission was to create open source available AI code to create things like Grok and ChatGPT. I think, yeah. And, well, OpenAI, according to the accusation, according to the claims by the suit, OpenAI has taken, well, I'll read the rest of the article here because it's going to go into that a bit. So the XAI released Grok last year, arming it with features including access to real-time information and views that countered politically correct approach. The service is available to customers paying for X's $16 monthly subscription. This show is a blue check marked $16 a month subscription. I bought the subscription on an annual basis, so I think I'm paying like 14 or 13 bucks a month, but you get the idea there. So Grok is behind a paywall, and y'all, I'm okay with that. You probably heard me more than once say I'm too broke to buy cheap. Yeah. You ever bought some cheap shit? It breaks. That's why it's cheap, right? And like Grok will not draw black Nazis if you don't ask for black Nazis. You ask for regular Nazis, they will be vanilla with blueberry colors, right? Legion says paywalls keep out the riffraff. Amen, brother. So Musk helped co-found OpenAI with Sam Altman nearly a decade ago as a counterweight to Google's dominance in artificial intelligence. But OpenAI, which was required to also make its technology freely available to the public, has become closed source and shifted focus to maximizing profits for Microsoft, Musk alleged in the lawsuit filed last month. So basically, Musk said, here's a shitload of money, and I want you to go do something good for the people. And OpenAI said, yo, we just want the money. To this day, OpenAI's website continues to profess that its charter is to ensure that AGI is artificial general intelligence, benefits all of humanity. In reality, however, OpenAI has been transformed into a closed source de facto subsidiary of the largest technology company in the world, Microsoft, Musk's lawsuit alleged. The lawsuit has ignited a debate among many technologists and investors about the merits of open source AI. So when they say open source, what they mean is that you, the individual regular citizen who's not an employee of the company, can get your hands on a copy of the code and examine it. Open source has been a useful topic of conversation and an important one, most especially following 2020, right? And I'm not going to go down a whole tirade about the legitimacy of the 2020 election, but I do want to just point out that this, contextually, this is important. The voting machines, I'm not going to say the D word, because this isn't so much about that. It's about what it means for something to be open source. The voting machines are still, there are questions that are reasonable to ask about the security of the machines. And one way that those questions could easily be solved is by having open access to the software on those machines, which would allow for the weaponized autists to go through and look at the code, and if there's something there, please believe me, they will find it. Please believe me, they will find it. Ask what's his face, the actor from the Transformer movies that tried to have the anti-Trump rallies and resistance movement stuff, and the autists at 4chan got their hands on his live streams and were able to identify his location based on the visible star patterns in the live stream videos, and raid those places and replace their LGBT flags with MAGA hats. It was brilliant work. You open source that software, and I guarantee you that the autists will find the problem. The only way they don't find the problem is if there isn't a problem at all. Now, that said, like I already mentioned, I'm not going down a big rabbit hole on election integrity on this episode. I want to focus on this conversation. But the lawsuit has ignited a debate among many technologists and investors about the merits of open source AI. Vinod Khosla, whose firm is among the earliest backers of OpenAI, called Musk's legal action a massive distraction from the goals of getting to AGI and its benefits. Okay, AGI is artificial general intelligence. And that is a distinction that is being made because we have used the term AI prematurely. So what they mean when they say AGI is what you think they mean when they say AI. And when they say AI, what they mean is Zork. So, Zork, I've explained this before. I'm going to try to do it quickly because it's valuable for this conversation. So, Zork is an old video game. It's a text-based video game, and basically you got a black screen, white text, and it tells you a story. You see a monster at the end of the hallway. Do you? What do you do? And then you type in, this is what I do, right? I run away, I attack with the short sword, etc., etc. So in Zork, in a game like that, a primitive text-based video game, the world is entirely confined to the text that is available to the program. And the possibilities, the things that you can tell the game you're going to do are entirely limited to the text available to the program, right? So you can't type, I attack the monster with my basic weapon. No. Because the game needs to know exactly, because the text needs to match, I attack with the short sword. Very primitive, but, fun, cute little game. What they're calling AI now is that. It's exactly that, with the exception being that it just has a near infinite list, or more correctly, a constantly updating and repopulating list of those specific text interactions. And because of the rate of improvement available to a deep machine learning architecture, when you ask questions or give answers that the machine learning architecture has not already encountered, it case tests those text samples against probable responses based on other case texts. It's just an extraordinarily more dense and complex version of the Zork game that I just described. An artificial general intelligence, which is what we're now referring to, what used to be meant by artificial intelligence, is a computer, an artificial manufactured mind That means that not only can it understand because it knows language and actually dissect and interpolate the data that's fed to it, but, at least in theory, the real hurdle to get from what we are calling AI now to what artificial general intelligence of the future should be in theory is the capacity for creative original thought. Here's the problem, though. There have been traditionally two major hurdles to getting to that artificial general intelligence. One is sight, vision, visual acuity, right? Go back and read some Aristotelian metaphysics, and he will go into great detail about the significant importance of your visual acuity in merely accessing the fabric of reality, right? We're not just talking about being able to see a thing and recognize, oh, this is a Sharpie, this is a coffee cup. Oh, I can extrapolate from knowing this is a coffee cup to presuming and confirming that this coffee cup contains liquid, right? The ability to intake useful data and draw conclusions from it, right? The first hurdle to the intake of data is the visual acuity. Coffee cup. Oh, I guess there's coffee in here. And now I've used another sense. I've conducted another level of analysis and confirmed, in fact, that this is coffee, which needs to be warmed up because I've been talking for almost half an hour with this cup of coffee. The ability for a computer to take images, even using a camera, where, okay, it can, the computer can be told, take a picture of this. We're only very recently getting to the computer being able to identify objects by photographing them. And even then, what it's doing is less like what you do with your mind when you observe, make an assumption, and then choose another sensory mechanism to confirm the assumption. It's less like that and more like the computer has a list of, it sees an apple. Well, apples come in multiple different colors, multiple different sizes, multiple different shapes. It can't just overlay a basic template and say, hey, there's a hand, and then overlay another object. For one, this is a left hand and this is a right hand, and that's a distinction that the computer has to learn to make and cannot make easily. That's a major hurdle. But the other major hurdle, and this is the one that the open source AIs are really trying to work toward, is the ability of the machine to have creative original thought. There is a baseline of philosophical construction, mostly related to ontological philosophy, that presupposes that it is impossible for original thought to occur. But rather than original creative thought, what the mind is able to do is a sort of combinative construction of thought, right? I can imagine a gigantic coffee cup only because I have a coffee cup in my hand, and so I can imagine a coffee cup. And in my life, I have seen small rocks and huge mountains, and am able to extrapolate the concept of scale and then apply it to this. It's not an original thought, but rather an amalgamation of multiple other observations constructed into a single paradigm to create something of a chimera of idea. But, and the classic example in the thought problems has to do with, well, there are no unicorns, but we have an idea of what a unicorn is. Well, yes, because I've seen a horse and I've seen something with a horn on its head, and I thought, or somebody thought, oh, hey, what would it be like if the horse had a horn on its head? And boom, there's a unicorn. So just trying to get past the capacity for creative thought, we're not even able to do it in a very technical sense ourselves, let alone with the machine. So that's going to be the thing that slows down the development of artificial general intelligence dramatically, and maybe if the philosophers who believe that we are incapable of creative thought for the reasons I've just described, if it turns out that they're right and creative thought just is not a thing, and everything you do is basically an analytic regurgitation of data consumed from around you, then there can be no artificial general intelligence. Here's the silver lining. Before the machines murder us all, if they have gotten smart enough to do that, we will at least know that we were in fact capable of original and creative thought. You know, before our extinction event. So, I hope that was a good chat. I hope you guys had fun with that one this morning. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go ahead and put a pin in it there, and I gotta head to Noonan. So, y'all be safe. We love you, and I'll see you. Wait a minute. Oh, I thought. So, okay, gotcha. Sergeant Major was asking Stryker a question, not me. All right, y'all be good. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow.